This is the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza. From a bird's eye view, the apex of the Great Pyramid spans an impressive 12 square meters. Historically, this summit was crowned with a capstone, often referred to as a pyramidion, but it has since disappeared. Ancient Egyptian documentation suggests that this capstone wasn't just ornamental, but was instrumental in harnessing the pyramid's intended purpose. Interestingly, by over 2,000 years ago, records indicate the pyramid was already missing its crowning stone. Originally, the pyramid was encased in gleaming white limestone, turning it into a radiant structure that could arguably be visible from great distances, possibly even from space. Legends suggest that the capstone might have been crafted from gold, fueling speculation that it could have been pilfered over the years. The absence of this critical component, believed to unlock the pyramid's true capabilities, adds another layer of enigma to this already mystifying monument. Civilizations were far more advanced than we thought. First, let's talk about the ancient Egyptians. This is the Orion's Belt, a star constellation. Is it a coincidence that it perfectly lines up with the pyramids of Giza? Now, what's crazy to me is that the speed of light and the altitude of the pyramids are the same number. It's also mind-blowing that the pyramids line up with the motherboard of a modern computer. It's also shocking that ancient cave drawings have depictions of light bulbs. So what if this is a proof that...
Do you know if you cut and place 10 stones a day, it would take you 664 years to make the pyramid? There's 2,300,000 stones in the Great Pyramid. There's some real problems with the actual physical limitations of the size of these obelisks, where they're cutting them in the mountains and they have to move them hundreds of miles. How are you getting them out of the mountains? Like, what are you doing? This is like 2,000 tons. Like, what the fuck are you saying? It's very likely that the entire world experienced a cataclysmic disaster around 11,800, 12,000 years ago, somewhere in that range, and it knocked us back into the Stone Age. But those people who were around before that were probably more sophisticated than we are. We just have a hard time imagining that because we don't have any evidence of it. I more and more think that we just have to use our imagination because we're thinking of technology only as technology that we've implemented, like these microphones and cell phones and shit. But it's possible there was a completely different branch of technology and they had figured out something that allowed them to manipulate enormous stone.
Check this shit out, because this theory could prove that ancient civilizations actually had contact with each other across the world. According to the history books, there was absolutely no contact with outside cultures, but there are pyramids in 5 continents, with similarities that don't make any sense if history is correct. These are thousands of miles away, and almost all of them have this 3-window structure. Have you ever seen the photo of the Last Supper? Look in the background, it's the exact same windows. Mexico, Cambodia, and all the way in Egypt. All created in a time when traveling across the ocean wasn't a thing. Keep watching because it's about to get really good. The Bahamas recently discovered a massive man-made limestone road underwater. And at one time, the limestone was cut perfectly. And these land bridges are popping up all over the world, all headed out to sea, pointing at the direction of new land. Or like this one recently found in Sakhalin, Russia, when a massive storm sucked all the water out, revealing this massive road leading out into the middle of the ocean. Or like this one a NASA satellite recently discovered, now known as Adam's Bridge, connecting Sri Lanka and India. So could it be that these cultures somehow had a way to connect with each other? The similarities are almost undeniable. Let me know what you think in the comments.
I've read every fucking theory on how they built those pyramids. The Great Pyramid of Giza has 2,300,000 stones in it. Some of them are the weigh between 2 and 80 tons. Some of them are cut from a quarry that's hundreds of miles away. These things point, that pyramid is shaped perfectly. Like, if you fucked up like a 1/4 inch there, a 1/2 inch here, by the time you get to the top, that thing's a mess. But meanwhile, it's not. It's perfect. It's also perfectly aligned to true north, south, east, and west. And they're not really sure how old it is. They think they date it to 2,500 BC, but that's just because of organic particles that they pulled from inside stones. But they also say that they probably could have sealed those stones and resealed those stones over time. You're dealing with like a gigantic mystery of unfathomable proportion.
No evidence that a mummy was ever there. No mummy has ever been found in any pyramid, ever. Ancient Egyptians considered their pharaohs gods. The Great Pyramid is a strange structure for a god. Small chambers, narrow shafts, no markings at all. The way the pyramid was built and the materials used to build it suggest it had a different purpose. The sides of the pyramid are aligned with the compass with such accuracy that only modern engineering can match it. The Great Pyramid is a mountain made of 2.5 million blocks of stone, weighing 6 million tons, piled 481 feet high. Its footprint is over 13 acres. To align this construction within 1/15th of a degree of true north is impossible precision. The base of the Great Pyramid is leveled to within 3/4 of an inch. The only way to do this with modern structures is to use lasers. Even though the sides of the pyramid are over 755 feet long, made of stone blocks weighing between 2 and 40 tons each side is within 2 inches of any other. That's 99.98% accurate. Fun fact, the pyramid doesn't have 4 sides. It actually has 8. Each side is slightly concave that you can only really see from directly above, or when the pyramid casts shadows during the equinoxes. And yes, those angles too are perfect. Whoever built the pyramids somehow knew the size of the Earth. If you take the height of the pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, you get 3,938.685 miles, which is within 11 miles of the polar radius of the planet. That's 99.7% accurate. If you take the perimeter of the base of the pyramid and multiply that by 43,200, you get 24,734.94 miles. That's the Earth's circumference at the equator within 99.3% accuracy. We know that the ancients were obsessed with equinoxes, when the day and the night are the same lengths. The length of the day and night on an equinox is 43,200 seconds.
Every year, at least one person dies trying to climb the Great Pyramid. You're looking at a 52-degree slope. Once you get up 100, 150 feet above the ground, if you lose it, you're going to go all the way to the bottom.
The first few tiers of rocks seem pretty easy.
Some of the courses are chest high. It's laid out in layers.
Yeah.
In ancient times, it was covered with facing stones. Some of the facing stones are still there down at the bottom of the Great Pyramid. The theory is that they came off during an earthquake in, I believe, 1301. And at that time, the Great Pyramid lost its summit. Great Pyramid stands at the moment about maybe 455 feet tall, but its original height was 481 feet tall.
30 feet came off?
And you can calculate that. You just pursue those side lengths up to where they would meet. And according to that calculation, the Great Pyramid was originally 481 feet tall.
Did you know that the Great Pyramid is almost perfectly aligned to what is called true north? Still think it's a coincidence? Well, did you know that the Great Pyramid sides are on the exact line of the equator? And the 3 pyramids of Giza are perfectly aligned to match the belt of Orion. When you look at all the facts, it doesn't take a genius to understand that whoever built the most accurately aligned structure on Earth was not a simple people group using primitive methods, but incredibly intelligent workers.
Darkest conspiracy theories. The advanced ancient civilization. This theory says that at the time of the Egyptians, the civilization was far more advanced than it is now. And this is also how the pyramids could be explained. Because why are the pyramids in the exact same order as the stars in the Orion's belt? And what is more interesting, why is the speed of light and the altitude of the pyramids the exact same number? So many apparent coincidences, and they don't stop there. Because look at the motherboard of a modern computer and compare this to the lineup of the pyramids. Do you see a certain pattern here? Or is it just another made-up theory?
The people in Egypt, they believed in what's called Kemet, the people that existed before the Egyptians. When we hear these stories about the Great Pyramid being a tomb for the pharaoh, it's worth mentioning that even the locals didn't believe that. The saying that the pyramids were built to be tombs for the pharaohs wasn't even developed until 150 years ago. That's it. They were taught Kemet. And it's worth mentioning that when you go through inside these pyramids of Giza, there's not one single glyph in any of them whatsoever. There was never a mummy found in any Egyptian pyramid ever. Quite literally, the only reason why we are told this stuff is because that was the theory developed by these men that went in there and said, I believe these must have been for the pharaohs. That makes sense.
So it's all just one group of people had one theory, and that theory just stuck around.
100%.
There's been some interesting studies done on the faces of giant statues. One in particular is the face of Ramses. There's a statue at Luxor, and it's perfect. You can't achieve that degree of symmetry just by eyeballing it and doing it by hand.
It's virtual perfection.
Take a copy of that photo, bang on, like very front on, and then you flip it. It's perfectly symmetrical, left to right. It's also not something that is done in artwork. So, people often say, well, Michelangelo, he carved David. It's a beautiful statue. I've seen it. It's incredible, but it's human. It's not symmetrical.
What's the explanation for this that modern archaeologists use?
They did it by hand, right?
They do it by hand. That's literally what they say. You just don't, they're not engineers and construction experts at the end of the day. That's the problem. You can't achieve that degree of symmetry just by doing it by hand.
Sphinx, which is obviously one of the most amazing structures of the ancient world, the Egyptians don't talk about it. They don't know when it was built or why, and it's just odd. Imagine talking about New York and never mentioning the Statue of Liberty in your literature. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Here's why it's interesting that you brought up the Sphinx, because the temple of the Sphinx is the best evidence that it's older than people think it is. You see the walls on the outside?
Yeah.
Those lines are a clear sign of water erosion. You don't get that kind of erosion from sand and wind. Those type of fissures are only created from water, from thousands of years of rainfall. The last time there was rain in the Nile Valley was like 9,000 years ago. So it had to be thousands of years older than that. When they first found these fissures, they were like, there's no way, there's no evidence of any culture that existed that was sophisticated that long ago. Where's the culture? Where's the evidence? Well, now they have evidence.
What is the next tallest thing we built? Stable structure after the pyramids.
What?
The Eiffel Tower.
Really?
Yes, late 1800s in Paris, the Eiffel Tower.
Huh.
That was the first stable structure we built as a civilization that was taller than the pyramids. So the Egyptians knew architecture. Those rocks are nowhere in the region. They found a place where those rocks were mined. And those are some big-ass rocks.
The thing about the pyramids that's so impressive is the precision and the sheer numbers. 2,600,000 stones.
Our best understanding of Stonehenge is that it's a functioning observatory that can actually predict eclipses.
Theory that the reason we don't have any proof or any kind of solid evidence of how the pyramids were made was because ancient civilizations were way more advanced and they were ecocentric.
Wait, so what does that mean?
So they didn't produce any non-biodegradable waste. So all of the proof would have just like disintegrated.
It would just disintegrated.
Yeah.
Damn, bro.
Right? If you were that advanced, and you were conscious of the earth, right? They would know sustainability is like key.
Yeah, that's the key to keeping the earth.
And that's what we didn't do. We're only realizing that now. Yo, think about it. We're doing that now. Maybe they were already ahead of us. They figured that out before.
Yeah.
And everything they made now wouldn't produce waste and destroy the earth. So maybe that's why there's no like remnants of all that shit.
There's no evidence or all that. Do you know what I heard about like the pyramids and like the Sphinx?
What?
So like
one of the things I find most striking is the presence of Antarctica on ancient maps, because we didn't discover it until 1820, and yet it's on maps drawn in the 1500s with great detail, which again were based on much older source maps that have now been lost to us. It just shows a hole where Antarctica is, because it was an honest map. Nobody had found it by then. But if you go back to the Wolsey-Wooler world map drawn in 1530 or thereabouts, you find Antarctica is present. There's Antarctica at the tip of South America, just south of South Africa.
And what did they call it back then?
Well, they call it the Southern Land. And it's larger than it is today, but it was larger than it is today during the Ice Age. Antarctica was a much bigger. Now, what the fuck is it doing on a map drawn in the 1500s, which we know was based on older source maps when nobody knew it existed in the 1500s? To me, the obvious answer is we are dealing with the fingerprints of a lost civilization that mapped the world and that left evidence of that mapping, which ancient map makers found and used and incorporated into their.
Have you been to Egypt?
No, I haven't been there yet.
Dude,
I heard it's insane.
I climbed to the center of the Great Pyramid.
Yeah?
Wild energy in there.
Oh, I can imagine.
Fucking vibrating, like, ooh,
really?
Like it's fucking
like
weird.
You feel it?
Yeah.
Or is it just like
no, you feel it.
You're
You can
freaking
almost,
out because
you
you're
can-
there?
No, you can almost hear it.
Really?
It's like this weird energy in there, yeah. It doesn't feel like it doesn't put off like a bad vibe or anything. It just feels like electric in there. It's like, what is this, a fucking power station?
What is it?
I don't know. They say it's a tomb.
Yeah, but that's not real. I don't believe they've ever found like a dead pharaoh inside of one of those things.
No.
I don't think there's any real indication that it's a tomb.
And they're like, oh,
it's
it
just
got robbed.
speculation.
It was robbed.
They definitely were. I mean, they robbed.
But why
the
would you
shit
take
out
a
of us.
body?
They definitely did.
I looked into that recently. Remember?
Yeah, they eat
them.
them. They used to eat them. Yeah,
Up until like 100 years ago, they ate them.
Yeah, people would have ceremonies like rich people's houses, and they would unwrap mummies in front of their guests. Yeah, it was like an English thing, right?
Even up until
Sounds like an Illuminati thing.
Until
It does.
1909, they would give people ground skull for just like headaches and shit like that.
Pyramids of Egypt were not made by humans. You wouldn't believe me, would you? But listen to this. These ancient marvels that have stood the test of time, over 4,500 years old, and yet so perfect, so precise. It's hard to believe that they were built by humans without any of our modern technology. Some say it wasn't humans who built these pyramids, but aliens, extraterrestrials with advanced technology that we can't even comprehend. Sounds far-fetched? Maybe, but it's a theory that's out that gets even crazier. What if the pyramids were not tombs, but giant power plants? Imagine them harnessing the Earth's vibrations, generating and transmitting electricity. A technology lost to time, perhaps? Or could it be the Orion correlation theory? It suggests that the pyramids of Giza align with the stars in Orion's belt, a celestial map or a cosmic connection maybe. But here's where it gets tricky. Despite these thrilling theories, there's no solid proof. Most archaeologists believe in the ingenuity of human labor. But isn't it weird that these perfect structures, these ancient marvels, were built with such precision? Were the pyramids built by humans, aliens, or some unknown force? Now you might think him crazy, but what if?
There's something called the Osiris Shaft, which is located directly under the causeway between the Sphinx and the second pyramid. It goes about 100 feet underground. It's carved out of the limestone bedrock. It's the creepiest place I've ever been in my life. It's 3 different shafts, and you go down and you get to the 3rd level, which is completely dark and freaky. There was a side tunnel. Zahi Hawass himself, he's standing in front of this tunnel, and he says, it's yet to be explored. I don't know what's down there. They've since sealed it up. It's like cinder blocks. They sealed it up.
What?
Yes, it's the same thing. Like, they excavated the Sphinx, and there was always said to be tunnels under there, and there was no pictures ever released to the public, and some dude snuck down in there and took some photos. You can't see much, but what you know is that there are things that have gone underground in Egypt that, for whatever reason, Joe, is just off limits to the public.
Know who built the Great Pyramid, don't they?
No, they don't. No, there's archaeologists have attributed it to certain pharaohs, but there's a lot of problems with that. First of all, the Great Pyramids, they said they think they're tombs, right?
Right.
But there's no evidence they're tombs. They've never found like pharaohs in them or anything. That's not the pyramids. Not the pyramids themselves. The pyramids are so massive. There's 2,300,000 stones in the Great Pyramid.
The Great Pyramid was the tallest building on Earth until like 1860, I think. It was something crazy like that, yeah.
There's stones that were cut from a quarry that was 500 miles away. They cut obelisks that were like thousands of tons. They moved them through the mountains and got them hundreds of miles away. They have no idea how they did that. They were probably very sophisticated, but in a different way than us. They probably had technology that we haven't figured out yet, because we went to combustion engines and electricity, and that's how we figured out how to use human creativity and constantly innovating when we created technology that went in this way.
There's pyramids on 5 continents around the world. Is it a coincidence that they just happened to start building pyramids on multiple continents?
Here you see one from Egypt, one from Mexico,
Cambodia,
and one from Cambodia.
They have similarities of like the stripped steps that go up the middle of it. The reason why this is significant is because if the Great Pyramid is 4,500 years old, there are connections across the oceans that are not supposed to exist.
Right.
Because according to everything, they're adamant. It wasn't until Christopher Columbus, 1492, sailed the ocean blue, but yet there's these similarities.
number of blocks that are involved and 2.5 million blocks of stone. You're talking across 25 years, you have to have one block finished, cut, transported, put in place, perfectly aligned, all of that. One block every 5 minutes. For 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 25 years to build that structure in 25 years. Now, that doesn't take into account the tremendous amount of foundational work that has to go into this structure. Yusuf and I, we go to great pains to show people when you're walking around the pyramid, the tendency is to look up at this thing and go, man, that thing's amazing. But what you should also is look down at your feet, because at the feet there was probably years and years of work in terms of leveling the ground. In some places they put in these gigantic floor tiles that are the foundation blocks for the pyramid. Some of these weigh in excess of 200 tons, and they're fit together with precision. It's like a block that locks into the bedrock, and the other blocks around them, you can't fit a razor blade in between the gaps, which is something you see on pretty much all of this pyramid architecture, which is utterly remarkable. That figure of one block every 5 minutes doesn't account for all of the other.
Why do so many people believe that the pyramids of Egypt were not built by humans? One of the most intriguing pieces of evidence fueling this debate is the fact that the coordinates of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest of the 3 pyramids of Giza, match the same number as the speed of light, which is 299,792,458 meters per second. Some theorists argue that this cannot be a mere coincidence and suggest a deeper connection between the pyramids and extraterrestrial life or ancient advanced civilizations. Others claim that it's simply a fascinating numerical coincidence and nothing more. Whatever your stance on the matter, it is clear that the pyramids continue to captivate and mystify people worldwide. Whether they were built by humans or not, their enduring presence and significance in the history of humanity are undeniable. So, what do you think? Were the pyramids built by humans, or is it far more complex than that?
Anthony West was the first person to suggest that there should be a huge question mark over the Sphinx, that the erosion patterns on the Sphinx suggest it was much older than Egyptologists said. Yes, 2500 BC, the ancient Egyptians were there, but I believe they found the Sphinx already created and already heavily eroded, and that they then recarved its head into the head of a pharaoh, and that head is way too small in relation to the body. That makes sense if it was a heavily eroded lion head, which was then later cut down into the head of a pharaoh. The geology speaks to the original Sphinx being more than 12,000 years old.
The most sophisticated artifacts, pyramids, everything, are all the oldest. It gets worse as it goes on. That's not supposed to make sense.
There was some sort of very sophisticated civilization that was tens of thousands of years before that, and they were wiped out.
We even see that. You go to the Egyptian Museum and there is beautiful igneous stone vases made of granite. And right next to them, in the same display, because they're found in the same place, there's a rough pottery vase that's not even turned, just put together by hand, and they've painted it with dots to make it look like granite, and it's shaped the same way as the granite vase. That's pure imitation. Like this here, you have a hard igneous stone vessel made with perfection, and right next to what's clearly an imitation of it, made from pottery, and they've even dotted it up to make it look like granite. The dynastic Egyptians, they do trace that back 30,000+ years. They have a list of kings and rulers that go back into that time. It's only in our interpretation and our archaeologists that really say, well, you know what, that's just myth and legend.
These are 3 unsolved mysteries of the pyramids. Number 1, what happened to the Great Pyramid's capstone? Most all pyramids have capstones, the last piece put on top before its completion, and it's the piece that gives it its purpose. Far back as 2,000 years ago, the capstone, which was thought to be either made of gold or covered in a layer of gold, has been reported missing. Number 2, 118 of them have been found in Egypt, but pyramids have been found all over the world. The Americas, for example, contain more of them than all other parts of the world combined. In Mexico, at Teotihuacan, there's another pyramid complex. Just like at Giza, they seem to align directly with the stars in Orion's belt. History Channel has a special on the pyramids and other mysteries, Mondays at 9 Eastern. Number 3, how are they built so precisely? The Great Pyramid is composed of 2.3 million blocks weighing an estimated 6 million tons. The base is built in an almost perfect square, and yet given all that, they're aligned at true north to within 5/100ths of a degree.
Struggle to make the pyramids today. And I know people love to say, oh, human beings could do it. Sure, we could do it. But you have to realize there's 2,300,000 stones in the Great Pyramid of Egypt. And some of them are cut from a quarry that's hundreds of miles away. On the outside, everything's fucked up because it used to be covered in limestone, but people looted it and they broke off the limestone, they built cities with it and shit. It used to be flat and smooth to the point where it was probably polished and reflective. Like, they don't know exactly what it looked like, but they know that the precision inside, in some of the areas, like where you look at the stones, you can't even get a razor blade in between those rocks. And these are massive stones, and the amount of calculations that are involved and the amount of precision that has to be involved, and to take this this design where you're stacking stones on, you can't have any errors when you get to the top.
Leonardo da Vinci knew some disturbing things. That's why he hid them in his paintings. What do you think?
The Strange Truth That You Have Never Known, Part 150. Besides the pyramids, this is one of the most mysterious things left behind by the ancient Egyptians, which are 24 stone coffins, each weighing about 100 tons, transported by the ancient Egyptians down an artificial underground cave system. And the coffin located on this upper pathway will reveal to us some truly unbelievable things. As we can see, the passageway within the cave is extremely narrow, making it very difficult to transport or craft anything down here. This coffin, on the other hand, remains an unworked block of stone that was abandoned in the middle of its creation. Its lid, which was left behind at the cave entrance, suggests that these 24 coffins were transported from the outside as raw blocks of stone. They were brought through the narrow passageways to reach the main chamber, where they would be fully crafted and placed in their intended positions. However, what truly amazed archaeologists was that once completed, these coffins were incredibly precise, with all of them being perfectly cut and squared at 90-degree angles. Furthermore, the inner surfaces were so polished that they reflected like a mirror, making it hard to believe that these were made from raw blocks of stone. To create the hollow interior, the ancient craftsmen had to cut all 4 sides from top to bottom, including the inner bottom surface. Despite this, somehow they managed to craft them with such precision that they appear to be the product of a laser cutting machine.
Above the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid are 5 further chambers, and these chambers are roofed and floored with granite beams that weigh about 70 tons each, and there are hundreds of them, which, to put in context, a 70-ton beam is equivalent in weight to 35 large SUVs. These 70-ton granite beams have been elevated to a height of more than 350 feet above the ground and carefully and precisely placed in position. It is very hard for archaeologists to explain how that was done using purely leverage and mechanical advantage. You can say, oh, perhaps they built a ramp and hauled the stones up the ramp. But then you have to confront basic laws of physics. You can't haul a stone weighing tens of tons up a slope that exceeds 10 degrees. Then you start doing the calculation. How long a ramp do I need with a 10-degree slope to get to 350 feet above the ground? And the answer is you need a fucking long ramp.
You know the pyramids of Egypt, right?
Yeah.
So people say that they were built by like aliens. Like,
yeah, that's like a common thing. Yeah.
There's a drone that was flown into the pyramids. Like there's a video on this. There's video proof. It's flown into the pyramids.
Yeah.
And like the whole time the drone's going into like one of the holes in the pyramids, just keeps going.
Wait, how? So they flew it like illegally, or they flew it like?
I don't know if it was legally or not.
Damn. So some underground shit.
Yeah. So you go in, they go into the pyramid. It's
Yeah.
like some like open hole in the pyramid. So they go to the center of the pyramid. There's someone standing in the pyramid.
What?
There's like some sort of figure in the pyramid. There's a video on this. There's
Like a person? Like a person like...
I don't know. It's the video is like blurry, but it's a legit video. And
Yeah.
It's like it's some person's just in there, or some object or something's floating
the
in there.
fuck?
So people were saying
Yeah.
that was like an entrance into like another world.
Like an alternate dimension.
Yeah. So like or like the underworld or something.
Oh, yo,
So-
because there's a lot of stories like...
that's like a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
We should be shifting the date of civilization back. We've shifted back our date as a species.
Yeah.
We were 190,000 years old forever. They found a human jawbone in Morocco. Now we're 300,000 years old. The latest DNA evidence put us at around 800 to 900,000 years old, potentially. Like
That's wild.
That's the range of us
Yeah.
as modern humans on the planet.
That's so much time.
Dude, if you think about it, that's into other periods of warm, more hospitable environments. Give us a few warm, sunny days and enough shit to eat, and we're going to solve some friggin' problems.
Yeah, especially for thousands of years.
Yeah. So even if there were cities, there were remains, lost cities. The Younger Dryas and the cataclysm was so violent. This is all going to be buried in sediment and smashed into bits.
Incredible pieces of evidence that there's massive water flooding. And just from being impacted by a mile-wide chunk of iron that slams into an ice cap.
He got this information.
So the ancient Egypt, the original one, not the one that we know of today, is actually in America. I know, it's hard for me to wrap my head around this one too. But did you know that there's more pyramids in North America than there are in Egypt? which is odd because you would think that if the Egyptians were from modern-day Egypt, there should be more pyramids there, not over here. How did they get over here in the first place? Also, look at our dollar bill. It literally has a pyramid on the back of it. And that's the Washington Monument, which look a lot like obelisks over in Egypt. Really, the similarities are insane. Also, did you know that on April 5th in 1909, there was an article published about the exploration of G.E. Kincaid, which was funded by the Smithsonian, and where they discovered an enormous cave system in the Grand Canyon while G.E. Kincaid was floating down the Colorado River. And this cave system extended 1,600 meters into the ground. Like, that's massive. And they found Egyptian hieroglyphics. They found tools. They found pottery. They found even mummies in it. They found an entire room full of them. But they won't tell you that because to this day, the Smithsonian is in denial of ever funding such an exploration, and there are claims that G.E. Kincaid never even existed. But that's not even where it stops. Look at this old map of America. It's called Ti Amarikan, and in the Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary, Ti Amaru, which means people of the land of the Nile flood, aka Egyptians. Ti Amaru, Ti Amari, land of the Egyptians. These are the Cherokee and Pawnee native Moors, which were the original black people in Ti Amari, the land of Egypt. And that leads to believe that the Moors of Ti Amari, the land of Egypt, are the original Israelites and the original children of God.
When I first went to Egypt with John Anthony West, I thought before I got off the plane that this would be simple open and shut case. I would prove him wrong in the sense of his assertions that maybe the Sphinx was older. I had no doubt at the time that my colleagues in Egyptology must know what they're talking about, and all of that changed literally within 30, without exaggerating, 30 to 120 seconds of first seeing the Sphinx. Yeah, it really did.
What was your first impression?
Because my first impression of the Sphinx was, now that I saw it on the ground, in person, there was something wrong with the Egyptological dating. Because when you look at the Sphinx, as a geologist with a geological eye, this was not weathered by wind and sand. This was not desert erosion and weathering that I saw on the Sphinx. And it's that core body and the walls of the enclosure that show these ancient weathering, precipitation, erosional features that are incompatible with the last 5,000 years of climatic history on the eastern edge of the Sahara.
Part 1.
The Egyptians build these pyramids. What if we had 30 to 40 foot giants on this planet? They built the pyramids, but to them they were just like small little rocks. Genesis makes a direct correlation between giants and mankind.
But there are also hieroglyphics of giants just physically lifting these stones up.
This man from Germany filmed himself illegally climbing the Great Pyramid of Giza. Climbing this pyramid is against the law, and if caught, could face up to 3 years in prison. He knew this, but still decided to climb anyway, to get the amazing view on camera. However, the Egyptian police spotted him, and once he climbed back down, they took him into custody. They struck a deal where they wouldn't press charges, only if he deleted all the footage. He deleted it, but little did the police know he was able to recover it all, which revealed some mind-blowing views. Be sure to look us up on YouTube.
Can't recreate the Great Pyramid of Giza now, then how the f did we do it thousands of years ago? Many believe that it took around 20,000 workers over 20 years to build the pyramids, while others believe that the precision and detail of these pyramids make that impossible, especially with the lack of technology the ancient Egyptians were assumed to have. How were they able to use and carry such heavy materials from mountains hundreds of miles away? 2.3 million stone blocks at that. Some think that we had giants. Others think they had better technology than us. But how? Well, the winning theory at the moment is that we were, in fact, way more technologically advanced than we are today. and that there was a cataclysmic event that knocked us back to the Stone Age.
What?
Think about it. The pyramid is almost aligned perfectly to true north, southeast, and west, and the coordinates for the Great Pyramid matches exactly to the speed of light. But of course, it's just a coincidence, right?
Do people still think the Egyptian pyramids were built by humans? Now, we could talk about the Egyptian pyramids aligned with Orion's belt perfectly, or how the ancient Egyptians used the star Sirius as a calendar, or how the coordinates of the pyramid happened to match the speed of light, or how Americans stole one of the Egyptian antennas used to connect with space. Today we're going to talk about the 7 functions of the pyramid. Now, each function is listed right here. Then we're going to focus on function 4. The Egyptians understood where they came from, and with Egyptian deities like Sobde, we can see this. The deity Sobde is literally the personification of the star Sirius. When our ancestors came to Earth from the star Sirius, they landed 12 pyramids at 12 different locations on this Earth. One of these pyramids that has a lot of conspiracy behind it is the one in Antarctica. This is one of the 12 pyramids landed by our ancestors. These 12 pyramids are used to balance the energies of the Earth. They were placed at 12 nodes of the Earth where space energies enter our planet. These energies must be balanced or they will disrupt the Earth's magnetic field.
When you take a side view of the Great Sphinx of Giza, you'll notice that the head appears to be smaller than the body. There is a reason for this, but it's not what you might expect. See, while the majority of people believe it was simply intended to be disproportional, recent findings indicate that the Great Sphinx of Giza originally had a lion head, and when the ancient Egyptians discovered it, they recarved it into a pharaoh.
Footage of 1946 operation. High jump. Pyramids discovered in Antarctica. Built by Egyptians or built before the flood. Was the 1949 Antarctic Treaty one of the reasons to cover up the truth?
Have you heard about the pyramid they found in Antarctica? Well, we've all seen pyramids in Egypt, Mexico, and Peru, but recent satellite data as of 2016 confirms that the biggest pyramid in the world may actually be in Antarctica, and there's some pretty strange stuff going on in that area. Like Buzz Aldrin's trip back in 2016, when apparently he went on an expedition to check out this pyramid for himself, but something happened, and he ended up hospitalized for a few days. But when he got out of the hospital, he made a really strange tweet that was quickly deleted. It said, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself." So what did he find? What did he see? Did he make it to the pyramid? Then there's size. This could very well be the biggest pyramid on Earth if it's real. And to put things into perspective, the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza is about 230 meters wide. This pyramid in Antarctica would have a base that's 2,000 meters wide. So this thing is massive. And the more you look around, the more strange things you see that don't look natural. Like this giant line in the snow with objects poking out of the top. Or how about that big hole over there? What is that? Some kind of cave entrance? Because you know if it's Antarctica, there's no way that's water. And then you have other pyramid-looking structures like these that look oddly symmetric for something found in nature. Now when you combine this with the fact that we now know through core samples that Antarctica once was a tropical climate, that begs the question, who built these structures and who was actually living there? Was it humans or was it aliens?
One of the sites we visited for this series is an incredible pyramid in Mexico at a place called Cholula. And it is, in fact, the largest pyramid in the world. Very few people have even heard of it, but it's a much bigger pyramid than the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. It's not as high, but its footprint is massive. So it's a huge, humongous thing sitting there on the ground. And it turns out that inside it are 4 other pyramids. What we see now was built on top of those older pyramids. And then at the very heart of it is a sort of sacred spring that seems to have been the reason for the creation of that. And we, again, explore the possibility that the origins of this site may be much older than the archaeological dating.
So if you do a rewind on the geological clock of Giza, you find out that the Nile ran right up next to the pyramids. Now, when you take magnetized crystal granite, which is the base, and you use running water underneath it, you create physiostatic electricity. Then the granite will pull the ions up into the pyramid, send them up the Grand Gallery. Now, the Grand Gallery has these slots on each side. They could have been resonating rods, something to step up the electricity as it went up into the King's Chamber. In the King's Chamber, here's what's interesting. There's a box in there that they try to say it's a sarcophagus. It's not a sarcophagus. I'm 6'4". I can't fit in that box. You see what a real sarcophagus is. These things are massive. Not this little tiny box. The box is the exact dimensions, though, of the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant used to sit inside of that box. It was technology. It was a capacitor. And that would then give the extra boost and send the electricity up through the apex, where there was a gold capstone. The obelisk, which are magnetized crystal granite, would capture that ambient wireless electricity and then pass it on to what they call jed pillars. They had these jeds. They're depicted in many hieroglyphs, people holding them and connecting them to light bulbs and electroplating devices in hieroglyphs, which I took everybody to go see.
Why are there pyramids all over the world? They must have known something about pyramids that the rest of us haven't caught on yet. And look at, in the Great Pyramid in Egypt, King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber, two of those chambers are made with the hardest rock, glass smooth. How did they move these 600-ton, 1,000-ton? We would have a hard time moving them with our modern equipment. There were civilizations that were here and built things that we can't do today. But we like to think, since we're Johnny-come-lately, we're the smartest in the universe, and we don't know much about those civilizations that have wiped themselves out with their high technology.
Wackiest theory that I've ever heard. Someone was describing one of the ways, like a theoretical way, to move massive amounts of weight, and it would be with sound waves. But you would have to have some unknown technology to, like, if you were going to move, you know, those ones that they find, those obelisks that haven't even been picked up yet, but they were cutting them and they were, you know, something cracked in the process, and so they abandoned it. There's a few of them that are so big, they're so crazy. Can't even imagine someone being able to move it today with modern equipment. Like, what the f is going on?
I've been saying this all along.
Starting at the pyramids in Giza, going across the Sahara, through the Atlantic Ocean, across South America, through the Pacific Ocean to Easter Island on the most remote opposite side of the planet. All the way back around, back to the pyramids, are 21 ancient, mysterious sites, all on the same line, with remarkable precision to one another, circling around the planet. And whoever was building the massive megalithic stonework, like what we find here in Egypt, South America, even on Easter Island, had the capability to quarry, move, and lift unbelievable large masses of rock above your head, and cut and shape the stone with such a level of precision that you can't fit a razor blade, and in some places a human hair, in between the blocks as they butt up to each other. Many, if not all of these sites, have remarkable connections and astronomical alignments with the stars in the sky, along with the sun and moon, along with sharing identical architecture, stone cutting and locking techniques, making many of the walls earthquake-proof, which is why they have lasted as long as they have. And according to our current models of history that we're taught in school, not only were these people and civilizations separated by vast distances and oceans, but also time. So they supposedly had absolutely zero contact with one another.
Egyptian pyramids. There is a place called the Osiris Shaft, which is an opening that leads to an underground tunnel located 100 feet below the Sphinx in the second pyramid. Well, you see. Many controversies have surrounded this location because of its secrecy. And even though this location is not a new discovery, the former Minister of State for Antiquities Affairs, Zehi Hawass, has denied ever being down there, furthermore sealing it off when a YouTuber secretly snuck in to take photos, showing that there is a lot more being hidden from us. Some experts speculate that what's being hidden inside the Osiris Shaft will shed light on the truth about where the pyramids and Sphinx actually came from, taking away any credibility from Egypt's history, while others speculate that this could be an entrance to a city where an advanced alien race that built Egypt still resides. But all we are wondering is,
The Egyptian pyramid is one of the most mysterious structures on this planet. No one knows when they were built, how they were built, who built them, and most importantly, why were they built. Consisting of 2.3 million stones, cut and fit together with laser precision, the pyramids weigh 6 million tons. And not just that, many of these stones weigh around 80 tons and had to be transported from over 500 miles. When new, the pyramids reflected the sun rays in such a way, you would think they were giant jewels. Such a magnificent structure that still stands tall after thousands of years, is a wonder in itself, and a mystery too. In comparison, modern-day architecture like the Eiffel Tower can only last for 20 years if not regularly and diligently maintained. And as such, the question that lingers after all these years is who built the pyramids?
before they
When I was in high school, they thought human civilization emerged like 6,000 years ago. And now they're finding all this evidence of advanced civilization, like Göbekli Tepe, which is this uncovered site in Turkey, this massive structure that existed 11,000 years ago. This was the first that they know for sure is older than the pyramids by quite a bit. And so there was advanced civilization that was capable of building these immense, huge structures, giant pillars that had cut into them reliefs of animals that were three-dimensional, which is very complicated. We're talking about like 20-foot tall, huge things, like very advanced people that were capable of construction methods if similar humans existed 500,000 years ago. That gives them so much time to evolve. There was probably some really advanced thinking and really advanced science that we don't totally understand, and probably some lost technology that we don't understand yet. And this catastrophe theory makes sense.
The thing that is not Egypt and Giza and the pyramids, right? Those three pyramids will be considered false information, right? Because what happens is for example, the Bosnian pyramids, perfect example. If the Bosnian pyramids are 4 times the size of Giza, which they are, Dr. Samir talked all about that, 4 times the size, and are, let's say, older, based on the carbon dating in which he's done and all the research that he's done as well too, then that completely changes the entire story and timeline of all of the history books in which they've been teaching, right? So what happens is they have to now come out and say it's, pseudoscience, quackery, woo-woo, whatever goofy term that they want to call it, but because it goes against the narrative and the history in which is being told. They've also said with the Bosnian pyramids that they don't want to change anything because they'd have to change every single book, right? Every single book that goes into Giza and Egypt would have to be rewritten because of the Bosnian pyramids and other pyramids, right? You have pyramids also too in Mexico, which are the same size as the Bosnian pyramids. Those ones don't get enough talk either too. So Mexico actually is losing in that situation as well too. So what they do is, because our educational system is owned by the Rockefellers and these other groups of people, what happens is they have to teach a certain narrative and they have to keep it on that.
I think that the Egyptian pyramids were actually just tombs. It's quite obvious that our history books are wrong, and here's why. Number 1, the Great Pyramids don't contain any of the things found in Egyptian tombs. No mummies, artifacts, or sealed entrances. What our books labeled as tombs that were found near the pyramids were just these huge granite boxes, which have no trace of mummies and are obviously too large to fit a human. Number 2, it's built with unique materials used to conduct power. For example, the so-called Queen's Chamber, which contains this, as well as carefully crafted copper wiring. As you can see, it also contains instruction symbols drawn next to it, just like the batteries we use today. The tunnels inside the pyramid are also lined with granite, a conductor of piezoelectricity which allows for a large current of energy to flow through it. Not to mention the limestone, dolomite, and gold, all being some of the most electrically conductive materials on Earth. So you tell me if they were just tombs.
You look at the pyramids and you look at some of the structures in Egypt and all that stuff in northern Africa, what those people were doing is unexplainable even today. I've read every fucking theory on how they built those pyramids. The Great Pyramid of Giza has 2,300,000 stones in it. Some of them are between 2 and 80 tons. Some of them are cut from a quarry that's hundreds of miles away. If you up like a 1/4 inch there, a 1/2 inch here, by the time you get to the top, that thing's a mess. But meanwhile, it's not. It's perfect. It's also perfectly aligned to true north, south, east, and west. You're dealing with like a gigantic mystery of unfathomable proportion.
That's crazy.
Did Nikola Tesla really know the secret behind the pyramids? According to Tesla, the pyramids were more than just ancient tombs or architectural marvels. He believed that they held a hidden power, a mysterious energy source waiting to be unlocked. Tesla speculated that the pyramids were designed to harness and transmit wireless energy, tapping into the Earth's natural electromagnetic field. In his view, these majestic structures acted as gigantic power plants, capable of transmitting energy across vast distances. Imagine a world where electricity flowed freely, wirelessly, without the need for cumbersome cables or grids. Tesla envisioned a future where the pyramid's technology could be harnessed, revolutionizing the way we power our world. While Tesla's theory remains speculative, it challenges us to think beyond conventional wisdom. It sparks curiosity and invites us to explore the mysteries of the past. So the next time you gaze upon the pyramids, let yourself wonder, could there be more to these ancient wonders than meets the eye?
Proof ancient civilizations were far more advanced than we thought. First, let's talk about the ancient Egyptians. This is the Orion's Belt, a star constellation. Is it a coincidence that it perfectly lines up with the pyramids of Giza? Now, what's crazy to me is that the speed of light and the altitude of the pyramids are the same number. It's also mind-blowing that the pyramids line up with the motherboard of a modern computer. It's also shocking that ancient cave drawings have depictions of light bulbs. Part 2 up soon.
The astonishing thing is the so-called Pinkerton world map, drawn I think in 1813, based on the latest exploration data at that time. And it just shows a hole where Antarctica is. Nobody had found it by then. But if you go back to the Orontius Phineas map, drawn in the 1500s, you find Antarctica is present. Now, what the fuck is it doing on a map drawn in the 1500s when nobody knew it existed in the 1500s? To me, the obvious answer is we are dealing with the fingerprints of a lost civilization that mapped the world and that left evidence of that mapping. We have evidence that somebody, unrecognized by archaeology, had the capacity to explore the world and to map the world during the last ice age.
Rumours have circulated for years about a hidden chamber within the Great Pyramid of Giza, but few knew the truth until recently. Deep within the pyramid, archaeologists discovered a mysterious room, but what hasn't been revealed is what was found hidden inside. These leaked documents found on the dark web reveal ancient scrolls covered in extraterrestrial inscriptions. The glyphs contain information about advanced technology, time travel, and even alien biology. The discovery has been kept a closely guarded secret, with only a select few allowed access to the parchments. Conspiracy theorists speculate that the parchments contain even more incredible secrets waiting to be uncovered. The truth may be out there, but this amazing discovery will cause scholars to question everything they thought they knew about ancient civilizations.
They're finding pyramids that are older than the Egyptian pyramids and larger. Croatia, Romania, Bulgaria, in that area. One of the archaeologists, he takes tourists below into the pyramid, and the energy sensitive people are feeling all sorts of wonderful things down in these tunnels underneath the pyramids. They think there's some really huge pyramids they photographed with aerial photography and satellites in Antarctica. Huge. So pyramids have been with us for thousands and thousands of years. We're just Johnny-come-lately on this planet, you know, and we think we're number one. We're not. There were civilizations hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Underwater pyramids, found in Wisconsin.
Underwater pyramids have been found in Wisconsin. Small ancient pyramids found randomly in the woods with black ancestors' faces all over them, found in Wisconsin. Animal effigies all over Wisconsin. We know who built them.
Built the pyramids. What if up is down and down is up? What if you look down into space standing up on Earth? This is how we built the pyramids. Once you wet sand, it holds its form like concrete. You put the first brick at the apex. You move sand out of this corner and that corner and place bricks there on both sides all the way to the top. Now you let the sand dry out and drop that brick right through that bitch. Sand under pressure when it's dry moves like glue. That's why you always find viaducts in all of the motherfucking pyramids. So the sand and fuck out the bitch. Now you have a hollow pyramid. And it's built into the ground in the same specs. It's not really a pyramid, it's a diamond. It is now topped off by quartz, and at the bottom is topped off by quartz. When moonlight comes, it refracts off quartz in the bottom, the first refracting laser, illuminating the night sky, which is why they call Pharaoh God, because he can turn night into day. Thus the all-seeing eye on your dollar bill above the pyramid.
Is there something hidden beneath the Egyptian Sphinx? These two archaeologists actually found that there is. When these archaeologists ran sonar scan on the Sphinx, they found that there was a hollow chamber hidden 35 feet below the left paw of the Sphinx. Many archaeologists and philosophers believe that this chamber is the Hall of Records, which holds the ancient knowledge and true history of the human race. This knowledge was placed there to preserve it through the Great Flood, so humanity can one day come back to it and realize their roots. Many philosophers also talk about subterranean passageways hidden beneath the Sphinx. Ancient texts even point to the existence of a great city hidden beneath the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids. In ancient times, Giza was even known as Rusto, meaning mouth of the passageways and the other world. Strangely, after these two archaeologists shared their findings on live TV, the chief inspector Zahi Hawass banned them from the pyramids. It was said he was part of a mafia taking control of the pyramids and even suppressing new information on them.
Why do so many people believe that the pyramids of Egypt were not built by humans? One of the most intriguing pieces of evidence that fuels this debate is the fact that the coordinates of the Khufu Pyramid, the largest of the three pyramids in Giza, are the same number as the speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second. Some theorists argue that this cannot be a mere coincidence, and that it suggests a deeper connection between the pyramids and extraterrestrial life, or advanced ancient civilizations. Others claim that it is simply a fascinating numerical coincidence and nothing more. Regardless of your stance on the matter, it is clear that the pyramids continue to captivate and mystify people around the world. Whether they were built by humans or not, their enduring presence and significance in human history are undeniable. So what do you think? Were the pyramids built by humans, or is there more to the story? To learn more about your true potential, visit our profile to get a free ebook bundle.
A satellite image has officially captured this, a pyramid in Antarctica. It's hidden underneath the snow. And just to make it even crazier, it's 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers in width. But just to make it even crazier, this is the point where the Giza pyramids are in Egypt. This right here is where the Antarctica pyramid is, an exact 12,000 kilometers in distance.
What if the real reason they're not teaching you about the pyramids is because it would collapse the economy? Just follow me with this one. There are pyramids all around the world.
Right.
Some we don't even know about.
Right.
The one thing they all have in common is that they display underground tunnels. Taught that they are burial places and monuments to the pharaoh.
He literally just put everything together for me.
Found. But they did find that ancient cultures had knowledge of electricity.
Yep, and Tesla.
Like the Tesla. And the Baghdad battery. They teach you this because they don't want you to know that the pyramids were actually power plants. They supplied free energy and healing frequencies to the planet through vibration.
Right.
The Great Pyramid of Giza is lined with granite.
Crystals.
Granite is filled with quartz crystal, which can produce an electrical reaction. It's also noted that gold used to cap the pyramid. The gold provided a path for the electricity to shoot into the ionosphere.
Crazy, I'm mind blown.
Nikola Tesla knew about
Nikola Tesla.
And
they killed him. They killed Tesla.
He wanted to provide free energy to the world.
And that's why.
But his financial backer, JP Morgan, backed out of it.
And they killed him.
Energy would have left him.
Don't forget that part. They killed him.